Welcome to AM Muscle Maintenance with InShape Fitness. I am Coach Kim, and today's session is a workout called A Recipe for Daily Energy. It is tried and true, not a lot of fancy moves, but we're going to do some fancy combinations today and really boost your heart rate and activate all of your muscle groups, work your core, add a little bit of flexibility training in there, and make you feel really great in about 20 minutes. So let's get started with just a couple of deep breaths and a postural systems check. When you breathe through your workouts, you want to inhale deeply through your nose. The reason you inhale through your nose is because air filters through receptors in your nose that consume the oxygen at a more efficient rate than when you inhale through your mouth. So inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, and then take a couple of minutes to think about, a couple of seconds to think about all of your moving body parts. Your head, very important, as a ballast, and it weighs like 10, 11 pounds. You want your center of gravity to be where it's supposed to be for your balance in movements, for your gait, and for your just functional abilities. And you can't do that if your head is craning forward like it probably is all the time because you're busy typing away on a computer, laptop, or a device or something, or driving a steering wheel. So get your head back. Then push your shoulders back so that you open up your chest. You breathe more efficiently that way as well. And then think about the placement of your pelvis, your hips. If your pelvis tilts, that means that you are putting some strain on your lower back. You're sticking your butt out a little bit. These are all deviations from the proper neutral posture that have formed over the decades-long sort of onslaught, destruction of the human body in the sedentary lifestyles where we sit most of the day. We're going to talk about that a little bit more if I have time. But you do want to make sure that your tummy muscles are pulled in and that your tailbone is tucked in so that you activate your posture. You create that straight line straight down your body. Then the last thing is just to make sure that your left foot and your right foot have an equal amount of distribution of weight. So if you're right-handed, you typically put a little more pressure on your right side. And if you're left-handed, there are other transference issues and different things with different activities. But just think about your energy between your right and your left leg. And we're going to work the legs individually so that we can help make sure you understand that balance is needed in terms of the two legs and your exercise efforts. Now, I want you to start with something. I just call them jogs and jacks. So jog in place for about 20 seconds. We're going to do just a little bit of jogging. It can be walking. A high knee march serves this purpose, as well as a real rigorous level of jogging in place. You're about 10 seconds in, and you're kicking your heels back. You're moving your arms forward and back. Did you know that that Nelson Mandela, when he was imprisoned in South Africa, he jogged every day, apparently for about an hour, about 6 miles of jogging every single day in place in his prison cell. You can do it for just a few seconds. Okay, now jacks, jumping jacks. So when you do a jumping jack, you execute a jumping jack. You jump your feet out wide, but you don't turn out your toes. You keep your feet straight, and then you lift your arms up over your head, and they should touch at the top. You don't want those bent arms. You're not looking like some sort of caricature stick figure. You want to stretch up and then jump back down. And the reason we do jumping jacks, I sound very excited right now, but I'm kind of excited because it's a Friday, and that means the weekend is coming around. But jumping jacks we add in because of the plyometric component to landing lightly on the balls of your feet. There is a connection between overall energy in your life, the way that you feel throughout your day, and the neurotransmitter, the active status of the neurotransmitters that reside in your feet and your fingers. So by jumping a little bit, you get a little bit of that activation. So jogs and jacks, really, really simple. Now plant your feet about shoulder width apart. You probably know that I'm going to make you do some squats because, squats are great. So when you sit into an imaginary chair, or if you're not great at squats, when you sit into an actual chair, very important. We're going to do this for about a minute, and it's right at the 5-minute mark here. So we're going to go for about a minute. You sit down and you sit back. You stick out your butt. You don't arch your back though. You stick out your butt. You don't let your knees go past the tips of your toes. Your feet are straight. Don't turn your toes out. I know I'm feeding a lot of information to you, but then you stand up and you squeeze your butt cheeks as you stand up. That helps lift you properly without putting pressure on your back and giving the quadriceps, your thigh muscles, all of the workload. So down and up, we're at 38 seconds here. So you've got 20 seconds to go down and lift up. Your heart rate should elevate. Why? Because you're interacting with gravity. Gravity is resistance. This is the fallacy of most of the fitness industry regarding the need for equipment, the need for fancy stuff, when you have the ability to provide a resistance and weight with the machinery that comes built in and ready to go when you are born and when you become an adult, particularly when we need it the most when you're older. So those are standard squats. Now we can add, let's take one more minute to continue with squats, because what I want to do is add a little bit of that independent leg movement. As you stand up, lift your leg to the side. We call them sumo squats. So as you're lifting up, you're exhaling as you come up, and your left leg lifts up and lifts out to the side. You don't have to do a kick. You just lift it to the side. You might hear some police sirens. I'm in New York City, and the sirens just stopped. That means that the sirens might have stopped right in front of my apartment building. So you alternate left leg and right leg. As you come up out of a squat, you lift up the left leg. Then you go right back into the second squat. You come back up, and you lift up the right leg. Couple more seconds, 15 more seconds of those. Excellent. Okay, now I want you to bring your feet into a heel to toe position. So if you are right-handed, begin with the right foot towards the rear. The left foot is in front of the right foot. And if you're really off balance before I have you do the next thing, go ahead and stagger your feet a little bit. Don't go completely heel to toe, but maybe like almost heel to toe. Now you want to straighten your back again, pull in your tummy muscles, really think about your posture here. Extend your arms out to your sides with your palms facing down, your fingers open wide. All right, and now the fingers are open wide, which is the next thing that you're going to do is simply twinkle your fingers, like you're playing piano, like you're, really playing the piano, like I'm trying to think of a pianist that I could even quote here. I don't know. Anyway, so just to activate your fingertips. Okay, so now you're just going to stand still, and the thing that you're going to do, this is called the lighthouse. It's a balance exercise, and you turn your head all the way to the right until you look down all the way the length of your right arm, and then slowly you turn your head all the way to the left. And then again back to the right, and back to the left. Now you're discombobulating the equilibrium of your inner ear, and that means that you are going to feel off balance. Bottom line, vestibular work is happening. So your inner ear is interacting with your brain, and your legs are now trying to fight to grip your surface, which is why being off balance makes this exercise a real exercise. It doesn't seem like it is, although your arms might start to get heavy after a while. Now switch your feet. Don't let your arms drop if you can help it. Switch your feet so that the weaker leg is in the rear, and perform the same head movement. Turn your head all the way to the right and then all the way to the left. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's really easy to feel the increased level of heat that rushes down towards your lower legs, your shins, and your maybe your calves a little bit you'll feel, but then also your feet. It's great stuff. You want strong feet. You want strong fingers. We're getting ready to go down to the floor. We're going to be on our hands and knees for a bit. And one of the main reasons why I will do a lot of work with even I just left my 91-year-old client on Madison Avenue, and we do a lot of exercises where he is face down in prone position and working the body so that his core is activated and he can maneuver better through his life by virtue of really simple exercises that make use of the entire body. Okay, so turn yourself over now, or rather get down onto the floor and turn yourself into a quadruped position, into a four-legged animal. So you want to put your hands on the floor, and you should make a straight line with your shoulders down to the floor where your wrists are, and then with your knees and your hips, same thing, straight lines. Your back is straight. Your gaze is at the floor because, again, you don't want to crane your neck. Now, there are situations where the neck will be craned, and we're going to do one of them because it's one of my favorite exercises. But you got to be really careful because a lot of sedentary adults have developed spinal weaknesses that cause pain and suffering and are just poorly functional. They don't function properly. So you really do want to pay close attention to the way that you're moving your head because it is a heavy piece of equipment. But your gaze in this quadruped position is at the floor. Now let your head drop like a bowling ball slowly and curve your back into a cat, a scared cat. If you do yoga, you know this move already. It's a cat camel. So you take a deep breath here with your spine as high in the air as possible. You should feel the increase, the stretching out of your spine. Now lift your head and your chest and let your lower back contract. This is the camel part. Some people call it a cow. Either way, take a breath here. One more time. Drop your head like a bowling ball. Curl up your back, the upper part of your back, into a scared cat. Take a breath. Try to get your spine a little bit higher. And then inhale and exhale one more time. And then last time, you're going to lift your head and your chest and curl or contract your lower back. All right, now you're going to go back to that neutral quadruped position. And your head is in neutral position, which means you're facing the floor. Okay, the only thing we're going to do right now is something called a bird dog exercise, which is designed on one hand to activate the little muscles that actually connect each of the vertebra to the next vertebra. They're called paraspinal muscles, and they are really small and spindly. And you extend your right arm forward and your left leg back, and that slight diagonal movement activates those small muscles so that they maintain the structure that's required for proper spinal function. So you alternate between the left leg and the right arm, then the left arm and the right leg. It's called bird dog. You don't lift up. You just extend straight out. Like the bicep is right next to the ear, and your knees are still lined up. Sorry, your hips are still lined up with the floor as well. They're parallel to the floor. Okay, just alternate a couple more times. Now, I want you to take a rest for a second. If you need to rest your shoulders and your wrists, you can drop into child's pose. Take a couple of deep breaths. Child's pose is where you push your butt down on top of your heels from quadruped, and then your torso drapes over your thighs, and you stretch out your arms in front of your body. But go right back into quadruped, and then lift up into hand plank, otherwise known as the push-up start position. Just for a moment. Lift up straighten your legs, then bend your knees and let yourself lower back down to quadruped if you need to. Now lift up again, lift your butt up a little bit higher this time. We're going to go almost to downward facing dog. But again, using the knees as a hinge because I want you to bend your knees and then straighten your legs. We actually call this a pike squat. So we did squats where you were standing up and you were sitting into an imaginary chair. Now what you're doing is you're going basically from downward dog position, which is a triangle that you make with your body where your butt is sticking up into the air. And then you bend your knees to activate the quads a little bit, but it also interacts with gravity, so you elevate your heart rate. And so you bend the knees, straighten your legs. Bend the knees, straighten your legs. For another 15 seconds, just take your time. You don't need to go fast, but bend your knees and straighten your legs. Now, I do all kinds of fun things with this exercise because when you hover over the floor, you can bend your knees and pause there. And believe it or not, it's hard. It's not easy to do, to just hold the position. You keep your body weight distributed, not just on the heel of your hand, but distributed along the fingertips and the front part of the top part of your palm. And that's a hard thing to do. And after that, then you can do little jumps and little jumping jacks and things, various things. Okay, but now I want you to go back to child's pose and take a rest. Take like 2 deep breaths. And then I want you to lift all the way up into downward facing dog. And pause in downward facing dog, because at this point, the next thing I want to make sure, because it is really valid in terms of your energy. Remember, this is a recipe for daily energy. This is not a workout designed for you to fit into a bikini, although it is the end of the summer, so maybe no one cares about that. But the little black dress, I actually am thinking about the fact that I'm going to a wedding in a couple of, in about a month, I guess, a couple of weeks. And, just like thinking about how I'm going to look when I'm in a gown and it's formal. And so, but this is not that kind of workout. This is a workout about waking up and being able to take 15 minutes so that you feel better when you get in your car or go stand on the subway platform or do whatever it is you have to do to make it to your first thing with, maybe you still have coffee. Maybe you still eat something. Obviously, you should eat something, but you're still doing other things too. But it's the activation of the stimulation of the soft tissues inside of your body that gives you energy. We achieve stasis during the period of time when we're sleeping. And when we wake up, by slipping very quickly from the bed to the shower to the car, we never activate the body. Okay, off my soapbox. We're in downward dog. Now I want you to swing your hips down and through, if you can, into upward facing dog. And then go right back to downward facing dog. And as you go to downward facing dog the second time, what I want you to do is tuck your chin to your chest. And then when you go to upward facing dog, you tilt your head back a little bit if you can. Again, you need to pay very close attention to the stability of your cervical spine, the neck. It's a very small, spindly piece of your foundation, your architecture, and you need to make sure that it's safe for you. So talk to your doctor if you have any questions about that. But that level of functional movement is another really great way to stimulate the parts of the body that help push things up to your head, the blood flow, the proper air and nutrients. All of that is part of your metabolism, your cellular respiration, stuff that's happening that's invisible. You don't see it. I write about this in my book. I talk about it ad nauseum. Last exercise we're going to do here is a hip bridge. So I want you to turn your body over, and we're going to finish up in this last minute with hip bridges because, number one, the hip flexors are one of the saddest muscle groups that we have in our body. Number two, hip bridges provide you with a really easy ability to isolate one leg so that you can get a sense for whether your right leg is super stronger than your left leg or just slightly stronger than your left leg. But the imbalance between your right and your left legs is a really significant issue in terms of the quality of your functional life. Maybe not the quality of your life at, writ large, like, you can still enjoy yourself. But in terms of your interest in being able to go for, a day-long hike, to bucket list a running event or a bicycling event, those are the kinds of things that active people do, and they have fun doing them. It's not just exercise. And it shouldn't be about exercise. It should be about being with people, having fun, pushing yourself, being motivated, all the things that psychologically, kind of keep you going as a human being. And so being able to understand the basics of foundational strength means that you don't have a really strong left side or right side and an accompanying other limb that is very weak. Hip bridges, where you bend your knees, you put your feet on the floor, and then you lift your hips into the air, are easily made more difficult by lifting one leg up and then doing the dips or holding stationary over a period of time, the same amount on each leg. Hip bridges are one of my favorite exercises, and I absolutely, positively love them. So what we have done today, your recipe, and this is not a recipe that is going to be the same every day. As you probably know, I mix and match these exercises all the time. It doesn't really matter. You do need to spend about 15 minutes of time, 10 to 15 minutes of your time in the mornings, if you possibly can, activating your body. We did today a little bit of jogging and jumping jacks. We did squats. We did the sumo squats, where we lifted the leg out to the side just to make that a little bit harder and add that individual leg movement. I call it pivoting. Then we got down on the floor. We did the quadruped, sort of postural positioning, and then the cat camels, downward dog and an upward facing dog, the pike squat, and hip bridge. And that's it. I hope that you have a great weekend, and the summer has now finally ended. I know this has been it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on the air, but I will be back next week with another new AM muscle maintenance workout, and I will also be broadcasting an In Shape Fitness show, a podcast next week. I haven't figured out what I'm working on at this point. Getting back to work with my clients has led me to the idea that I need to write a podcast script about taking breaks, when you take breaks, and how important it is to maintain some level of movement over periods of time, because it's when during the summer people are more active, but the structure level of exercise tends to go down. So have a great day. I will see you again soon, and let me know if you have any questions.